Hello, everyone, and welcome to the session. Thank you all for taking the time to be here, and welcome to the third episode of this masterclass season. And in this session, we're going to be talking about change management. So, basically, we're going to be covering the basics of change management, how you can build an effective change management strategy, and also how you can configure change management in your ServiceDesk Plus instance. So we're going to be seeing how you can build and implement change management workflows that include adequate governance and how you can sidestep risks better. So my name's Jendra John Xavier, and I'm a product expert for Service Desk Plus. So before we head into the session, there are a couple of housekeeping items that you need to keep in mind. So all attendee lines are muted by default, and if you want to communicate with us in any way, please use the chat that is available in your Showtime application. Similarly, if there are any questions you want to ask us, there will be a questions panel on the left side of your screen, and you can send us any questions. We will have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the session, but feel free to ask us questions during any point in the session, and we have product experts who will be answering your questions. And do not worry, we will be sending a recording of this masterclass. So even if there are any interruptions from your end, do not worry, we will be sending the full recording to you in a couple of days. And if there's any feedback or any other questions that you have, you can write to us at one of the emails that are on your screen right now. All right. So now that we got that out of the way, let's jump right into our session. So before we go into our session, it's time for a quick poll. So in your first, even before the poll, I really hope you guys have a change management process in your organization. And if you do, I want to know if you have different types of changes, like your standard, normal, and emergency changes. So let's go ahead and see what the answers are like. All right, so looks like the majority of you do have different kinds of changes. So we'll just wait for another, like maybe 5-10 seconds for everybody to answer. Okay, so looks like most of people have answered. Yeah, let me show the result to you right now. So yeah, so that's great news, knowing the fact that most of you do have different types of changes for your standard, normal, and emergency changes. And we will be looking at why this is important a little later on in the session. Okay, so now let's jump into our session. And what better way to explain a use case other than through a story, right? So this is our story for this session. So we have a global health insurance firm, which is Zilka in this case, and they have offices across 3 different continents. So basically employees across the world. And also another undeniable fact is, with the onset of the pandemic and all of those things, it has become really important for organizations to enable hybrid work for their employees, right? So I'm sure there are employees in all of your organizations, and even some of you who might be working remotely, right? Or even in a hybrid setup. So in these kind of situations, it gets really hard when employees or your users need to access your on-premise applications, right? So they need VPNs, and it gets really complicated. So in this case, our health insurance firm, right, since they had users across the world, they wanted to move their on-premise applications to the cloud so that it's easy for their employees to access them and work from anywhere. So now we get to the first problem. Zilka's IT team, right? Now, unfortunately, they were not very well versed in how change management worked. And as a result, they did not have multiple change types, and they used a normal change management strategy to implement this transition. Now, let me just reiterate to you. So this is moving all their on-premise applications, or the majority of their on-premise applications, to the cloud. So it's no easy feat, right? It requires very good planning. And the problem is, if things are not done right, it could lead to a lot of problems with users being unable to access services and them being unable to work. Now, that's something you definitely do not want. So now let's look at Zilka's workflow and let's see how the entire change progressed. So the good thing about Zilka is at least they had a change management strategy. Of course, you guys would have heard yourself, right? Organizations that do not have a change management strategy, and that is pretty much a nightmare for most IT teams, right? So that's one good thing Zilka did. They had a change management strategy. So it starts off with the submission stage where a request for change is created to migrate their applications to the cloud. Next on, it goes to the approval stage where the change manager reviews the request for change and then approves it. So once it's approved, then it goes on to the next stage, which is the planning stage. So over here, our change management, our change owner is going to prepare all the different plans like our rollout plan, the backout plan, and the checklist. Next stage is the CAB approval. So now this change is going to move to the CAB approval stage where the CAB is going to review all the plans and see what the impact of this change could be, and then they're going to approve it. Once Zilka's IT team gets the approval, it goes on to the next stage, which is the implementation stage. So this is where things actually start going downhill for Zilka. So their implementation was not done properly. Like I said, this is a major change, right? Moving your applications to the cloud. And as a result, it deserves that respect where you have proper governance and you ensure that tasks are delegated properly and the entire thing is not only planned out well, but also implemented well. So the first major challenge that they faced was the poor utilization of their resources, which led to delays and led to them exceeding their budget. So Zilka failed to properly utilize the members in their team and delegate tasks properly to them. And as a result, like I said, it led to a lot of delays and increased cost as well. And since there was poor utilization of resources, the implementation was done in a really bad way, and there was no proper division of responsibilities, and the implementation itself was not done properly. And the lack of governance over deployment also resulted in the applications not being properly installed or implemented, and their production environment itself was not proper. So their release management also failed. And we go to the next stage, which is the review stage for a change. And the change reviewers identified that this change was not done properly and it was a failed change. So we see how things started off well. It was going pretty smooth for them, right? Until they got to implementation. And this is what we are going to be tackling today. So one, we're going to give you a base on how you can build a good change management strategy. And two, we're also going to show you how you can delegate this different task and implement this change properly so that you do not end up in a failed change. So here are the three major pain points that Zilka faced. So the first one was the inefficient usage of resources. So we saw that during their implementation, tasks were not delegated properly, and there was poor division of responsibilities. So how do you overcome the inefficient usage of resources? Number one is by adopting a project management approach. Now, a project management approach is great for these large-scale implementations because you have various different milestones that need to be achieved. And using project management, you can actually delegate your tasks, you have Gantt charts and so on to also keep a track of them and manage them. Second one is tracking implementation timelines by dividing responsibilities properly. So like I said, using Gantt charts, right, you can ensure and you have a bird's eye view of what each member in the team is working on. And you also have a timeline of how long their tasks are going to take. And finally, monitoring your manpower properly. So using resource management, we're going to go and see how many tasks each member has and what their availability is on and how much time they're going to be spending on tasks as well. So here are the different features available to us in ServiceDesk Plus that help us overcome this particular pain point. So number one, we have project management in ServiceDesk Plus, We're going to be using project roles to divide responsibilities, using Gantt charts and tasks. We are going to one track all the different tasks of our members and also manage them in one place. And finally, with resource management, you can see how much work each member is doing and if they are being underutilized or overutilized, so that you can optimize your manpower properly. So challenge number 2 is siloed deployment operations. So in this case, in Zilker, right, their release management was not properly integrated, or it was not on the same page as their change management team. And as a result, we see that their entire deployment was done in not a good way, and we see that the change failed, right? So for this, we have our release management in ServiceDesk Plus. So using release management, you can first establish accountability for all your different stakeholders, and you can also manage the entire development and deployment process using visual workflows. So we're going to be looking at the release management module in ServiceDesk Plus, release templates, release roles, how you can build unique release workflows, and also how you can track your releases in the release calendar. And the final pain point is the failure to implement the change, right? So what's the main objective of any change that you initiate? To successfully implement it, right? So in Zilka's case, the entire change was a failed change. So how do you ensure that you successfully implement the change? So one way is by tightly integrating your three different processes over here, or your three different ITSM practices, which is change management, or project management, and release management. And we're going to show you how all three of these practices can be associated and work together so that you can successfully implement even such a large scale change. So like I was telling you earlier, right, the importance of different types of changes. So we have standard changes, major changes, and emergency changes. Now, your standard changes are usually your changes that you do on a regular basis, which is like an OS patch on your server. So these are usually pre-authorized changes with established procedures, right? So these are very standard changes that don't require a lot of planning in advance, because this is something that you do on a regular basis. And the main objective of standard changes is to record what changes are being made in your IT infrastructure. If you guys go back to an older example, right, of Cloudflare, right? So once they had a really huge outage, and that merely happened because they tried to update an OS on their server, and nobody knew that this update was done. And the simple fix was they just had to roll it back. So all of this could be prevented if you make every change in your IT infrastructure using a change ticket so that it is recorded. The next one is a major change. Now, these are your high risk and high impact changes, like the one that Zilker is currently trying to implement. So like an IT infrastructure migration. So these changes require multiple levels of approvals, because this is very high risk and can have huge business impact for your organization. So there needs to be multiple levels of approvals, and you need to incorporate various automations to ensure that this change is properly implemented. And finally, we have emergency changes. Now, emergency changes, an example for an emergency change would be a security patch for a zero-day attack. So when it comes to such a critical and high priority issue, we cannot beat around the bush using very standard changes or a major change workflows. These changes need to be approved as soon as possible, and they need to be implemented as soon as possible. And you need unique workflows for this, which directly go for approvals to maybe your C-level executives or your IT manager, so that you can quickly steamroll this entire project and get it implemented. So now that we've seen the different kinds of changes, we've also seen the various challenges that Zilker faced. Let's go ahead and see how Zilker's change management strategy can be improved using an ITSM platform like ServiceDesk Plus. So we know that Zilka's first stage was pretty good, right? So this is your submission, your planning, and your approval stage. We saw that all of that was really smooth for them. And where things went wrong for Zilka was their operational level, which is the implementation and release level. So now Zilka is going to be using project management for their major implementation, and under project management, they are going to delegate. They are going to delegate responsibilities using their project roles. They are going to set up milestones and tasks under these milestones so that they are properly done, and also they are going to associate any changes or incidents that are that have been caused by this implementation and so on. And they can also track and manage their resources better with resource management and Gantt charts. And moving on to release management, they're going to set up a multi-stage release strategy, right from their planning, their development, testing to deployment and closure. And this release management workflow is going to help them properly develop their applications, test them, and ensure that they are working properly in their environment so that their users can access the services that they need to work and get their work done. And finally, after the implementation and release is done, it will move on to the next stage, which is the post-implementation review, where the change reviewer can go review the change and then determine if it is a successful change or not, and move on to the final stage, which is the change closure stage. Right? So this is really simple, right? So we saw this entire workflow and it looks really simple on paper, but don't worry guys, I'm going to show how you can set up such a similar workflow in your ServiceDesk Plus instance as well. So now that we've seen all the different features that we are going to see today, let's jump into ServiceDesk Plus and see how all of this works not just on paper, but in real life as well. So let me quickly go into ServiceDesk Plus. So right now I am in the changes tab, and I'm going to go and click on this particular change over here, which is the migration of applications to the cloud. So this change we see is a 6-stage process, right? So we have our submission, planning, approval, implementation, and review and close stages. So in the submission stage, so this is where you basically come up with your request for change, right? You're going to go ahead and give all the information that you need for this particular change, like the reason for change and all your details over here. So once you submit the change, you can send it for a level of approval, which can be configured in your change workflow. So let me quickly go and show you this particular change workflow. So this change workflow is a migration of applications to the cloud workflow, which is a major change workflow for me. And we can look at this workflow, right? So basically you can build various different kinds of change workflows on a graphical drag and drop canvas. So I'm going to show how you can build this particular change as well and show you how simple this really is. It requires no scripting and it's a simple drag and drop canvas. So we have our different stages over here. So right here, stage 1, submission. So over here, I've set up a condition. If this is a high priority change, only then it is going to go for an approval at the submission stage itself. And if it's not a high priority change, I can choose to automatically move it to the next stage, which is the planning stage. Similarly, over here in the planning stage, I can set up another condition. Only if the backout plan is added to this particular change, only then will it progress. So in this case, it's going to go to a level of approval where they're going to check if the change plan is good and then approve it. And then it goes to the next stage, which is the CAB evaluation stage. So over here, our CAB is going to go evaluate the change, and then if it meets their expectations and if they think it is a good change, they're going to approve it or deny it right from here. And this way we see that you can build really comprehensive and change workflows that fit your business requirements. And you can also set up various different automations like notifications in your change workflow as well. So we will be looking at this change workflow builder in detail in a little bit. For now, let's just quickly follow how Zilker can improve their change management strategy with ServiceDesk Plus, right? So stage one is your submission stage. Next on, we go to the planning stage where you can add all your change details like your impact, your rollout, your backout plan, your checklist, and you can also specify your downtime right over here. So you can choose, you can add a downtime from here with the start time and end time as well. So now once the planning is done and it has been approved, it goes to the next stage, which is the CAB approval stage. So over here, you can, on ServiceDesk Plus, you can actually create multiple different CABs. So you can create a standard CAB, which, evaluates your normal changes. And you can also set up a major change CAB with, specific users or technicians who can go ahead and approve this change. Similarly, you can also set up emergency cabs with with maybe your C-level executives or your IT managers so that they can immediately take a decision and approve the change. So once the approval has been, once the change is approved, it moves on to the next stage, which is the implementation stage. So over here, we can notice two different things, right? One, we have associated a project, and we have also associated release right over here. So you can go and create a project right from within the change, or you can associate an existing project. So let me go ahead and open this project and show you guys how Zilker is going to implement this change. So under project management, we have all of these different tabs that are available to us, like the details of this particular project. So when you create a project from within the change, it can automatically collect the information from your change ticket itself. So in this case, it's pulling in the the change details right over here. So under the project, I can go and create various different milestones. So over here, you can see that I have created 5 different milestones, right? So I can set the priority of this milestone, and I can set unique owners for all of these milestones as well, and set the scheduled end and start time. And under each of these milestones, I can go ahead and create tasks that help me complete or achieve this particular milestone. So in this case, to clean the data and optimize it, I'm going to sort the DB instances and set up the MySQL instance as well. So these are the 2 different tasks that I need to complete. So you can also set up task dependencies right over here by clicking on the dependencies button over here. So I can set up the dependency so that the instance setup is only done once the DB instances are sorted. So this way I can track all my tasks, and I can also track all my milestones right from here. And using work logs, you can go and create the work. You can also log the work done by each of your technicians, and they will show up on your timesheets. So let me go back to the milestones. All right, so that's one of the 5 milestones. So similarly, you can create tasks for each of these milestones, and you can delegate each of these tasks to a unique member in your project. So you can go and view all the different members of your project right from here, and you can add new members as well. So like I was telling you, you can go and view all the different tasks from your Gantt view. So over here, I have all my milestones, right? It is showing me the timeline for all of these milestones and who the owner of each of these milestones are as well. So now let's go and look at resource management. So over here, I can look at all my different members, and I can see all the different tasks that are associated to each of them. And by setting the estimated time for each task, I can also, track the, how much work each of them are doing. And I can see that for each week, let's say if they're working for 45 hours in a week, by setting the estimated time for each task, I can, measure how much time they're going to be spending on these tasks. And this way I can optimize how I distribute work among the members of this particular project. And if we go over to the associations tab, we can see the changes that are associated with this project and the releases that are associated with this particular project as well. So currently my project is in the implementation stage and the status is in progress, right? So if I go back to project and check the details, I can see my change details right from here. I can see that it's in the implementation stage and the status is in progress. So we see that this way Zilker can manage and implement this change better using a project, right? So now let's go and look at the release ticket as well. So if I go ahead and open this release, we see that again, this is a multi-stage release, uh, multi-stage release ticket, and we see it goes from submission all the way to closure. Now, similar to the change workflow, releases also have release workflows. And let me quickly open this release workflow and show you guys. So this is very similar to the change workflow, as in you can add your different stages and you can perform various different actions like conditions, field updates, notifications, and you can also set multiple levels of approvals to ensure that the release is done properly, the development is done properly, and it is deployed properly as well. So you have all of these different stages, and under each stage you have your different plans, right? So you have the description of this release, and again, when you create a release from your change ticket, it is going to automatically pull in the information from your change ticket, like the description and your different plans as well. So your change plans, like your impact details, your rollout plans, and so on. So in your release, again, you can add your different stages that you want. So you can create various different kinds of release workflows, which we will look at in a little bit when we go over all the different configurations for this change. So these are the different stages, and you can set up multiple levels of approvals as well. And using this change this release strategy, Zilker can ensure that they are developing their applications, testing them properly in their environment, and ensuring that it is a good experience for their users when they access their applications that have now been migrated to the cloud. So now now that we saw the implementation through projects and release, let's go back to our ticket and let's see how it works. So now that the implementation is done, in our workflow, we can see that we have set up an approval, right? We have set up multiple levels of approvals for the implementation stage. So once the approvals have been received from the approvers, we can move it on to the next stage, which is the review stage, where the change reviewer can review the change, and once they determine it is a successful change, they can go ahead and mark it as a successful change and then close this particular change, right? So this is how the entire process works, and it's very simple, right? If you set it up properly, we see that we have great visibility on this entire change. So one, it starts with the request for change, where we add all the necessary details. Next, we add all the necessary plans for this particular change so that our CAB approval, right? Our CAB team is able to, gauge how important this particular change is, what the risks are involved, and then they can choose to either approve or reject this particular change. And then it moves on to the implementation stage, where we are going to bring in different ITSM practices like project management and release management to build a cohesive strategy that helps Zilker successfully implement this particular major change. All right, so that's pretty simple, right? So if you guys have any questions about this entire process, please use the questions tab and you can ask us, and our product expert who's there, our product expert panel, right? They will go ahead and answer your questions right now. And now that we've seen how this entire thing works, right? So basically, this is like a proof of concept. So to show you that change management can be a lot easier if you set it up properly. So now let's go ahead and look at how you can configure all of this in ServiceDesk Plus. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the admin tab, and we're going to first see our change template, right? We're going to see how you can create unique change templates and collect the information that you want. So let me go ahead and show you how you can create and your change templates. So over here, this is how your a template builder looks like in ServiceDesk Plus. So you can go and add your different kinds of fields that you want for this particular change ticket. So you can choose to add or remove them right from here. And it's really simple. So you can just go drag and drop whatever new field you want to add, and it's as simple as that. And again, we know that one size does not fit all, right? So that's why we have given you the ability to go and create your unique fields to collect whatever kind of information that you need based on your unique business requirements for your organization. So you can go set your change fields over here, and also you can also create and add default change roles for your change templates so that they automatically pick up these change roles. So now that we've seen how you can build and create your change templates, let's go ahead and look at how you can customize and set up change management for your organization. So if we go under customization and if we go over to change management, this is where you can go and specify all your configurations, like what are your different change types. So over here, I just have the usual major, minor, significant, standard, and so on. So you can also go and add like your emergency changes over here and create various kinds of changes. So again, change types are also really useful, especially when you're trying to create your reports, right? So you can easily identify how many kinds of changes have occurred in your organization, and you can also choose to you can also measure and identify how many kinds of changes are being successful and how many of them are failing, and you can identify gaps in your change management strategy. Next is your change risk. You can create multiple kinds of change risk right over here. You can create different kinds of reasons for changes over here so that you can easily record what kind of changes it is and why this change has been created. And like I told you guys earlier, you can create different kinds of change advisory boards or cab groups right over here and add members to each of them. So the change stages, so these are the six change stages that are available to you. And next up, we have the change rules. So over here, you can go and create new change rules. So let me just quickly show you how you can create them. So you can add your change name over here, and you can also choose who this role will be available for, if it's only for technicians or site group technicians and so on. And over here, you can give granular access to each of your change roles, similar to how roles in ServiceDesk Plus work, right? But in this scenario, it is going to be how much access and how much permissions or privilege each change role has under each change stage. So for each of these six change stages are there, right? So you can choose to give privilege for each of your change roles right from here. Next up, we have our stage and statuses. So while your stages are locked, you can actually go and create multiple statuses for each of your stages right from here. Again, this helps fit change management for your business requirements. And finally, we have our change configurations, where we have a bunch of options, like if we can allow the change owner to edit the change across all stages and so on. So there are a bunch of different options that you can choose to configure right from here. So now we've seen how you can build your change templates. We've also seen how you can set the basic change configurations in your organization. Let's move on to the next really important one, which is your change workflows. So we're going to be looking at both change workflows and release workflows right from here. And I'm also going to show you how you can build these workflows. So let's open the workflow that we used for this particular change. So this is the workflow, right? Again, it is a simple drag and drop canvas, and it's very easy for you to create really complex and comprehensive changes. So over here, I already explained to you that we can set up different conditions, right? So we have conditions and we have field updates, and we also have different nodes like switches that you can add to make this change workflow do what you want. You can also set up multiple levels of approvals and utilize the notifications node so that you can send notification to various stakeholders throughout this entire change workflow. So now let me go ahead and show you how you can build a change workflow. So let me go ahead and create a new workflow. So when you create a workflow, you're immediately met with this kind of a canvas. So you have your stage, your submission, and your close stage. So you don't need to add every single stage for your change also if necessary. You can choose to add the stages that you want. So if you want to add a stage, all you have to do is drag and drop. There is no scripting or coding required. So you can choose your stage that you want to add, and you can also choose what statuses you want. In this case, I just want to add approved, um, planning in progress, rejected, and requested for more information. I can go and add my stage over here. Let me just quickly go and arrange this. So in this, I'm just going to quickly demonstrate how you can build a very small workflow, right? So how you can build a workflow and how you can add a couple of these different nodes that are available. So in this case, I'm just going to show you how you can add an approval level for this for the planning stage. So let me just go and add this. Let's say I want to add a planning approval. I can go and select my approvers. So I have different options available to me here. So I have the organization roles that I can add over here. I can add any one of my cabs over here. And I can also add my change roles here. And in case I want to add a unique or a specific user, I can just type their name and add them as well. So in this case, let me just add a user. And you can also customize your notification email, right? So over here you can go and customize this notification and add the different variables you want so that it sends the information to the approver. So let me go and add this approval stage. Okay, so now let's see how you can build this workflow. So now that it comes to the submission stage, and once it is accepted, I'm going to move it to the planning stage. So it's going to come and rest in the status, which is planning in progress, right? So once the planning is in progress, right, once we add all the details, I can choose to move it to an approval level. So over here, my change approver is going to go and look at the change plan. And if it is approved, it is going to move to the approved status. And from the approved status, it can go on to the next stage. And in case the approval is denied, I can move it to a rejected stage. And from this the rejected status, and from this rejected status, I can move this to the cancel state and so on. So now this is one level of approval. Now imagine you want to add two levels of approvals, right? So let's say in case the the plan is not done properly, or let's say for this particular change, having a backout plan is vital. So in that case, you need to add a condition, right? So I'm going to add a condition, and I'm going to select so let me give a name for this backout plan. I'm going to select the column I want. So I can choose any one of the details over here. So yeah, the backout plan description needs to be added. So is not empty. And I'm going to add this condition over here. So now I'm going to move this ticket, move from the status, which is planning in progress, to this condition. And if the backout plan is not empty, right, only then it is going to move to my approval stage. And if it's empty, right, it is going to move to the requested for more information. So now if the backout plan is empty, then I can choose to move it to the status which is requested for more information. Now my change planner can go and add the backout stage, and then once the backout plan has been added, I can then choose to move it to an approval level and then proceed with this entire workflow. So we see that it's really simple to build such a complex workflow, right? So I'm just showing you a very simple workflow, but you can make it as complex and as comprehensive as you need to meet your business requirements. So this is how you use the change workflow. Now the release workflow is also very similar to this. So let me just also show you that as well. So this is the release workflow that I created. So again, I have all my different stages, and I have different nodes like the condition node, the field update node, and so on. And I have various levels of approvals. And we see this is how the release workflow looks like. So this way we ensure that it goes through all of the stages, and it also each of the stages, right? It moves on to the next stage only after necessary approvals and all once conditions are met. So this is a release workflows. So now let's also just take a look at the different the other configurations that are available to us as well. So under project management, you can create different project types, you can create different statuses, and you can also create your different project roles from over here. So again, similar to how we saw change roles, right? You can go add the details of your project role, and also you can give granular access privileges for each project role right from here. So these are the different configurations available for you for project management. And if we move on to release management, we can see that you can, these are the different stages and statuses available to you. So you can go and add new release statuses right from here. And we also have our release roles that you can go and create. And again, just like how we saw earlier, it is very similar to that, as in you can manage the privilege of each of your release roles. And you can also go and create your different downtimes right from here. So for your release ticket, right, you can go and create a scheduled downtime so that everyone in your organization is aware that there is a planned downtime. So in this case, under the deployments stage of my release ticket, I have created a downtime, a scheduled downtime from May 1st to May 5th. So this way I can keep everybody involved, informed that there is a scheduled downtime. So my change team is aware of this, my release team, and my project team as well. So these are just some of the different features that are available to you to build a good change management strategy. Now, your change management strategy is not just limited to your change management, but it can also involve your other ITSM practices like project management and release management as well. So I covered most of how you can set up your basic change management and how you can implement such a strategy in your organization. Let's go back to our presentation, and now let's do a quick recap of what we saw today. So one, we saw why it is important to create different kinds of changes, right? So, and we saw one particular change in detail today. So we saw how you need to approach and how you need to implement a major change. We saw how you can create and customize your change templates, your change workflows, release workflows as well. And we also saw how you can configure and create various roles for your change ticket, for your release ticket, and for your project as well. We also saw how there are various stages and how adopting a multi-stage change strategy and a release strategy can help you. We also saw how you can manage your different approvers and how you can set up various different cabs as well. And finally, we saw how we can take a holistic approach to this entire problem that Zilker was facing, right? How you can use change management, project management, and release management together to create a good strategy. So that's pretty much it for this session. I hope you found it useful and I hope you learned something new today. In case you have any more questions, please do write to us and we would be more than happy to help you with that. And you can also go and access our different resources like our admin guide and so on, right? That I'm showing you on the screen. Once again, thank you all. So thank you for taking the time to be here and be a part of this training session. I hope this session was useful to you and I hope we'll see you all in the next episode. Thank you all so much and have a great day.